take the honor to welcome our session guest, Dr. Hirendan sir, our dear participants, our Vice Principal and Conclave Convener, Dr. S.D. Asgekar sir, and our session expert, Mr. Abhay Shukla. As we all know, information collection is all around us, collected, processed, and applied in real time. Right from the time we wake up in the morning, all activities, data can be collected, processed for a good business solution. From our likes to dislikes, our choices, our preferences, our mode of commute, our hobbies, everything can be recorded and processed. Of course, all these things will be used for a good business solution. So, the term here, or should I say, the buzzword here is data and collection of data. Proceeding with the session, let me take the opportunity to request Dr. S.D. Asgekar sir, Vice Principal Science, and our conclave convener for the welcome address. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Radhika madam. Good afternoon. As a convener of the conclave, it's my pleasure to welcome all of the academicians, young researchers, business delegates from all over the India and abroad to attend the International INFOTHON Conclave organized by IQAC and one of the finest department of the Thakur College, that is Information Technology. This International INFOTHON Conclave has been scheduled for 3 days and we are in day 2. The objective of the conclave is to bring all the stakeholders of the information technology sector to discuss role of information technology in the field like human crisis management, changing lifestyle, role of the information technology after COVID-19, besides exchanging ideas, knowledge and experience with the expert in the sector. I am very sure artificial intelligence, robotics, data science, machine learning, and 5G technology will be the integral part of this particular conclave and will be igniting the new ideas and terminology for the future generation. It is our sincere efforts by IKC and the Information Technology Department to engage and enrich the various stakeholders in the IT sector during this pandemic situation due to COVID-19. This activity is a part of our skill and talent enhancement program, and I'm thankful to all the participants as till now more than 3,000 participants are registered for this 3 days international conclave. So on behalf of the management of the Thakur College, chairperson, conveners and the organizing committee, I once again welcome you all. It is my pride to welcome Mr. Abhay Shukla, Senior Director, Advanced Analytics Solutions, Optum Global Solutions, to share his views on data science to business solutions. We also welcome Dr. Hirendan, Head of the Information Technology Department at Mulund College of Commerce. Sir is also a very active member of Board of Studies at University of Mumbai. On the behalf of Management Committee, I welcome both of you, sir. I extend my best wishes for the remaining sessions of this particular conclave and expecting fruitful outcome. Thank you everyone for associating with Thakur College of Science and Commerce. Over to Radhika Desai, madam.
Thank you so much, sir. Hereby welcoming a very special session guest, Dr. Hirendan sir, Head of the Department, MCC College Mulund, BOS member, BSc MSc IT, University of Mumbai, having over 20 years of experience in academics, with a wide experience of different fields of research like embedded systems, databases, image processing, microprocessors and microcontrollers, and many other related fields. Sir is also an integral part of multiple committees and associations in University of Mumbai. Now hereby taking the honor to invite you, sir, for the inaugural talk.
Thank you, Radhika madam. I would first of all like to congratulate the management, the principal, the vice principal, the coordinators, all associated with this International INFOTHON Conclave 2K20. In this time where the world is facing crisis of corona, and this is really very innovative idea to have such type of conclaves where people all over the world are coming and participating and gaining a lot of knowledge. So whatever disaster has happened, we are trying to get a good amount of, we are spreading a lot of knowledge, and this is really a very good thing. So really it is a good thing initiative undertaken by Thakur College, the IQEC and Thakur College of Commerce and Science. Data science, as we all know, in today's world, everything is related to data. All of us, directly or indirectly, are generating huge amount of data on social media. Each one of us would be on some form of social media or the other, like Facebook, like Instagram, and every single click, every single like is generating a lot of amount of data. How this data can be utilized for business? So this is a very good and innovative topic, and the right aptly given the title of Data Science to Business Solutions, think-ovation approach. I'm sure our speaker of the day, Mr. Abhay Shukla, is going to give us a lot of insight on this topic. So I thank Thakur College, the authorities, to invite me as a guest today, and I wish all the best for the sessions and all the remaining sessions to come. So without wasting and taking more of your time, I really thank once again everyone, and this session should be very useful to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your kind words. Getting up to our informative session, I would like to request our participants to support us by following certain guidelines. One would be keeping your video mode off and posting some questions in the Zoom chat box. And of course, due to limited time constraint, we'll be answering few questions from them. We'll try and optimize our time as much as possible, as well as going for the feedback link, which will be posted in the Zoom chat box at the end. So without further ado, let me welcome our session expert, Mr. Abhay Shukla, Senior Director at Advanced Analytical Solutions, Optum Global Solutions, United Health Group. Welcome, sir. Kindly grace us with your session.
Thank you, Dr. Adhika. And before I begin with my session, I definitely want to thank and really appreciate the Thakur College of Commerce and Science for organizing such an event. Thank you to the Sir Principal, Vice Principal, and all organizing members, right? And also, it is my privilege to be here, and I was listening to Dr. Hirendan. Privileged to be, having such a wonderful audience here. Right today, the topic that I have chosen is around data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning. It's all in the buzz, and we all know that, right? But where I wanted to present is a more from a industry perspective, where we see that industry is heading, where the students are coming from, what background they are, what they are bringing to the table, versus what we are expecting them to be, right? Also, this is with a hope and expectation that the students or anybody who is pursuing their career in this field, they will be able to take it as a takeaway that how to elevate yourself up the value chain in the world of data science or artificial intelligence. So with that, without, we already are 15 minutes in the session. So without spending any more time on this prelude, I'll move to the content. And guys, before I this slide details out my agenda and how I'm planning to present. But honestly, the whole content is carved around how you see the data science world and how we see the data science world, right? And where is the gap, where we see a bridge is needed, where we see some more innovation is not fueling as much, but in some capacity it is happening. So hopefully, you'll find it very, very useful. So let me just start, and this is the slide, I just wanted to keep it so that all of us, we have seen Iron Man, that's a very famous superhero. I don't think there will be anybody in the audience who doesn't know Iron Man. What people didn't notice that in Iron Man movie throughout, whichever movie of Avengers you are seeing, it is full of AI applications, right? So there was something called Jarvis, which Iron Man keeps on talking to Jarvis every time, right? It's not unfair to say that Iron Man is as powerful as Jarvis is smart, right? So Iron Man's strength lies in the smartness of Jarvis, and which is nothing but an artificial intelligence system, right? Recall those movie scenes like, where Iron Man calling out, hey, Jarvis, we are going to this height. I'm going to fall down. Bring me my hand. Bring me my suit. Fire this missile. Jarvis is doing everything in the back end. He is simply passing the commands, right? Of course, human strength and human mind is required, but Jarvis does the more than 80% of the job, right? And today, it looks like a science fiction, right? But whether it's going to be a reality sometime, I say I'm very positive about it. But that's like just one example. But if I move next, Wall-E is also like very famous among the kids, and especially like, anybody who has seen it, like, that was a AI based robot in the like post-doom earth, collecting the garbage, making the cuboids of it, right, and storing the garbage and managing the garbage, right. It has the ability to scan on its own, just like we see the things. It can see the things like that. It can identify the objects, right? Similarly, like the Her movie, like, not many of you have watched it, like, but I'm sure some of you must have watched it. That was a very innovative formula in the movie, like, the concept. It was a computer system, which is like, augmented reality based system, right? And it's like, you want to go to a beach. I so wish that I had the Her during this lockdown crisis, right? It was like, if you want to be on a beach or on a mountain top, you just need to like tell the computer, and computer will create an augmented environment for you. And you are on the beach. You cannot distinguish between the real world versus the augmented reality, right? And that was the, like, the movie all about, right? And the last example is like slightly an outlier, but I definitely wanted to keep it deliberately for a reason, which was Moneyball. If you have not seen this movie, all data science enthusiasts must see this movie, right? This is the true story of a coach in America, which is able to leverage data and the data science, elements of data science, I must say, right? And bringing that, and he uses that data science or data exploration, the power of data, in order to transform the underdogs team into a winner, right? And that's a very amazing story. And like, that was he was the first coach in America, right, who used that data in the real world business problem. It was not business, it was a sports problem, to be honest. But yes, because in sports also you make a lot of money. And that's where, you talk about data exploration and how you can create those opportunities. So, on one side, like the three examples I have got is around artificial intelligence. They all fantasize you, right? These are all something where possibly we see the world moving maybe 10 years, maybe 15 years. We'll see how that moves. Nonetheless, the example of Moneyball in this context is as relevant as Iron Man or Wall-E, because if you don't know what data, how do you translate the problem, you cannot survive, right? You'll end up using garbage in and garbage output, right? So that's where, keep these examples. Again, if you have not seen these movies, I'll say, like, I strongly recommend these movies. Just go and watch more from the perspective of the data science as well as artificial intelligence. And you'll see that why and how the power of data is so important. And if it is harnessed in the right fashion, it can create wonders to you. It's not only about the business problem, it's about solving the society problems, right? So with that, I'll move next, on this slide, I just wanted to, cover the basic understanding or elements of data science that we take, how we see in general. There are so many: Coursera, Udemy, Jigsaw Academy, right? Upgrad, I don't know, like tons in Sophie, tons of universities, colleges, which are giving you a distance degree. And then there are colleges which are floating a regular course focused on data science as well as artificial intelligence. Lately, I read that, one course focused on business analytics, which is a like 3 institutes program in India, first of its own kind. All those initiatives have started coming in. But what I see here is, people talk about the technology platforms, Spark, H2O, TensorFlow, Anaconda, right? These are not like the names of species, or these are not snakes or Python, right? These are like more of the technology in the data science or AI world, and whole AI world is riding on these, technology or advanced platforms, right? Then there comes like, a lot of science and like, the computer, I'll say computational engineering element, that is the data structure, right? And many of you might be knowing, and those of you who don't know, it's very good, like, how you organize the data. And data is getting revolutionized. Earlier, where we used to have just megabytes of data, like if you go 20 years back, then we moved towards gigabytes. Now we are into terabytes. And believe it or not, we have produced in the last 2 years as much as data that humankind has produced data in the last 200 years as total. So in the last 2 years, we are producing that much of data, which was not produced even in 200 years, right? And for that, you need to like, be really, really smart about the storage infrastructure, etc., right? And that's where like the new age technology, like clouds, like the Azure, Microsoft offering, the big data, everyone knows about it, all right? The Amazon Web Services, AWS, the Google Cloud, right? All these things are like aimed at how do we solve that data storage problem, right? So, and all these courses or all these certification will be focusing on like either on the technical aspect, like how do you organize your data? That's one part of the data science. How do you handle that vast amount of data, like, so that you are not lost. And if you need some information, you are able to search it, you are able to find it, right? On the user side, like, how do you leverage this data? For that, you have statistical tools, you have machine learning tools, which also include deep learning in this slide, right? And then you have the optimization, which is more of computational engineering or mathematical equational problem, right? So these are like the three boxes: the statistics, machine learning, and optimization. These are more of the use cases. And the other three boxes, the platforms, data structure, and new tech, they are the enabling services, what I call it, for the data science or new age AI, right? And today, this is like common understanding, like, I'll come to like my definition of data science as well in a subsequent slides. But if you like, feel that, like, that if you feel that this definition corresponds to your understanding, right? And you want to be master of more on the applied side or more on the infrastructure side of data science, if it is like in line with your understanding, or if you have a different notion, I'll very, very strongly encourage you to like, keep typing on the chat box if you think, or if I have missed something, right? Having said that, all these like, things, you can find the certification courses across the board, right? And all the colleges, whether it is distance learning or regular colleges, they are tightening up, they are gearing up. How do we float these courses, more and more of such courses, right? And once we are certified, today people call them data scientists, right? Now, where I wanted to go with that, like, what does it mean? Like from the previous slide where we have understood how to organize the data, what are my technology tools, the tool stacks, like, where I should process it, AWS, Azure, they all have their own AI suite, right? So how do I use it? That's where I see like how the data science or data scientist rather in action, right? I'll not call it data science in action because I have a slightly different as a notion of data science. But also like in today's world, when people think about a data scientist, this is what they are talking about, right? And this problem I picked up from Kaggle, where like, they are talking about a diabetes database for Indians. And they are talking about, can you predict whether or not a patient has diabetes using the previous diagnostic measurements, like, so what kind of diagnosis they had in past. Can I predict that, they have the diabetes or not? Because one common problem in the industry of healthcare is we don't know who has the diabetes. People don't get their blood sugar tested, especially the younger people. They might be suffering from diabetes, but we don't know. So that's like the problem, given like, you want to predict whether or not a patient has diabetes, given the different features or information which is included in that Kaggle data set, right? That has the other diagnosis that a patient has. So, and keep typing, like, what do you think is going to be an answer for it? How are you going to solve this problem, right? All data science enthusiasts, I'll say, like, start typing in the chat. We cannot talk, so, but still, like, if you type in chat, I can see whether or not it is resonating with you or not. And also, like, if I'm missing, like, if there is a novel way of solving it, right? What I thought in my mind, like, it is a simple supervised learning model problem, right? The solution is going to be a supervised learning model. And for that, I have so many methods, right? And I can apply, I can see which method yields the best outcome. And when I say outcome, I'm talking about some of the goodness of it, statistics, whether it is sensitivity, specificity, ROC, AUC, right? I can keep on talking about those, like, and I can pick up the winner one. But that is like, a very good. And if it is like, if you already knew the answer, bingo, you know how the data science works in action, right? Now, so but the question here is like, how many times we'll come to know this problem in advance that hey, it is a supervised learning model. It was in Kaggle, guys did a wonderful job to organize this problem into a fashion where you can, anybody who has done any data science certification, they can recognize it as a supervised problem, right? And then they can apply different algorithms, come up with the different solutions and all that, right? However, that's where, like, I'll say, like, the data scientist in general, like, when they come in the corporate, and don't go by the like number of years, like, that is just a tentative mark, but so for some people it is a steeper learning curve, some people it is a slower learning curve, but it's like, on an average, my impression, right? So when the data scientists come, they can solve this kind of a problem. If I give them a data and I tell them, hey, can you predict? Yes, they can, because they know the algorithms, they know how to write a Python query, they know how to work in the big data environment, etc. Right? And that's where like the data scientist ecosystem comes in, right? Now, here is like the slide, which is where I wanted to dictate, like, and it is like, taking back to your school or college days. What I have done is like, I picked up some of the basic trigonometry formulae just to highlight, and I hope that that helps you to recollect. When we were studying mathematics, we all were taught so many formulae, right? In trigonometry, I remember like memorizing at some point of time around 70 formulae, right? And everything has a like, has a notion and an understanding. Now, when we think about it, right? But in real life, nobody tells me that, hey, which formula I need to apply, right? And we used to do a lot of exercises, and those were like the level 1 exercises or 101, what we call in college language. But later on, like, once you start growing, the problem comes, hey, the elevation angle for a hot air balloon climbing vertically changes from 25 degrees at 10 a.m. to 60 degrees at within next 2 minutes, right? The point of observation of the angle of elevation is situated 300 meters away from the takeoff point, right? Now the question was, what is the upward speed assumed constant of the balloon, right? At what level speed the balloon is going up? That's a question. Now, I know all the trigonometry formula, even if you know as a mathematics student, right? How do I solve it, right? Because this doesn't tell me which formula I need to apply. And that's where, like, the biggest disconnect that I have experienced in the industry is around problem formulation, right? You have to, you cannot apply any of the formula, which is like in data science world is equivalent to a methodology, right? Whether it is supervised learning, unsupervised learning, 4 time series or whatever, right? You cannot apply any of those learning which were taught during that certification or the courses, right? Until or unless you have the ability to formulate the problem, right? Once you formulate the problem that, hey, what the question in the English term, like, layman English, I need to translate it into my X and Y world so that I can figure out what I need to do. And then the trigonometry comes to my rescue, that then I figure out, oh, now I get it. It is formula number 22, which I need to apply here to solve it. And we know how to solve it. Like, you'll find a number of ways to solve it. But without this red block in the between, right, there is no other bridge which can connect the methodology world to the real world, right? And by real world, I mean the real business problems, right? So that is like, much, much more important, at least in the applied world or in the corporate. To solve the business problem, you need to know how exactly you are going to bridge the gap by formulating. And if you don't know how to formulate, then you are in a trouble, right? So none of the, many of the courses cover it. Like we have some courses which covers it, but in general, people think that, hey, it's a shortcut is, students think that if there is a shortcut, I learned these certifications, I have learned the algorithms, I became a data scientist, right? My thing is challenging that status quo. And by that, I mean, do you really know if I give you a business problem, will you be able to formulate? Right? And that's where I have the question, is data science in itself enough? And when I say data science here, I'm only talking about the methodology, right? Is it merely enough? Possibly not. The red block is much more important. And let's see it in in action, like in the real world business problem, right? And that's where I came up with I coined a new term in my company, which is I call data science solutionist. So from data scientist, I came to data science solutionist. Somebody who knows data science and also knows how to solution it out, who knows how to formulate a problem. So the question was if a bank wants to increase its market share for next 2 years, in the credit card world, it can be a new bank, let's say RBS, or it could be Dena Bank, it could be Kotak Mahindra, anybody, or Yes Bank, right? They are not as big in credit card market, but they have aggressive target. What do they do with that? Right? They should be able to make people accept their credit card as a solution, right? Now, I have sample formulation on the screen, but just take a moment, stop focusing on the formulation, but just think about it, what all we can do, right? The immediately question comes in what is my propensity to engage? I can develop a propensity model, right? And that's where people are jumping the guns because they are not spending time on formulating, right? And I would like to quote Sir Einstein, who said, if I have 1 hour to solve a problem, I'll possibly spend 55 minutes in understanding the problem. What does it mean for me? And then only 5 minutes to solve it, because you know how to solve it once it is formulated. And that's a key, and these guys who are data science solutionists is much more in demand in the market, and they are much worshipped, whether it is in academia world or it is in corporate world. In both the worlds, in professional world, they are much precious assets to any team or company or a college, because they have the ability to connect the dots, right? And when I'm saying the dots, is one is the theoretical technological world, the other is the real world, right? And they can come up with hey, I am taking the problem formulation in this dimension. There could be further more ways, right? I have taken a more marketing approach, but even it could be a product designing approach as well. That is just up to you, how do you formulate the problem, right? So there could be n number of solutions for just one problem statement, right? And then you have to figure out which one I want to prioritize first, right? It doesn't mean that you always start with the propensity model. So always take a time to think about it, right? In this particular case, there are different kinds of cards, right? If I send a mailer, I know in past how my members or customers have responded. So I have a response likelihood from my past experience, bank has, right? I know which channel and how they work, something, I have the baseline response rate. I also have the, how much each program cost for me. Like if I'm trying to send a travel card versus a platinum card versus a super premium card, how does it cost and all that, right? It's a maximization problem. And then once you have formulated it, I'll find n number of data scientist guys who can solve it for me, right? But I'll find only a handful of people who can come up with a formulation which is real, applicable, as well as feasible in terms of the data that we have and connecting the dots to the end objective, right? So guys, all I wanted to highlight, data scientist, becoming a data scientist is just the first step of the journey. Focusing, the moment you become you become a professional, start focusing on the solution part, because, and especially the problem formulation part, because that is where the the magic is going to happen, because you can formulate it very differently. The Kaggle type of problem, we rarely get, right? It's very luckily I might get in 5% of the cases in my experience, I would have got a problem like Kaggle, that hey, here is the data, we tried a model, can you improve this model, right? That is like, just 5% of the problems when I get it. And I feel myself lucky because that's the easiest problem to solve. This is like more realistic case, like, which happens in almost like, most of the cases, and you'll go in like in any industry, this is what you are going to witness, right? Now, and that's where like, I wanted to introduce this term data science solutionist just to take a moment so that it gets registered in your mind. It's less about the techniques or methodology that you are seeing on the screen. It's more about the formulation thinking that you are thinking systematically or in a structured fashion, and you are trying to understand, translate the problem. A data science solutionist, to my mind, is somebody who can read a business problem and can translate it into a data science world problem. And then from there, he can formulate it so that a data scientist can come and run it. He can be running himself, or he can be asking a junior data scientist to run it, right? And what I've written again, that in terms of the time horizon, 2 to 4 years or something, right? That's a very aggressive path, to be honest. Like, it's not that easy, but it happens. Like, some people have made it in within 2 years, right? And that's like very average time that I'm mentioning, that how much time people take it, right? Now, moving next, like, but my presentation topic was data science to business solution. I'm still talking about data science. So where is the business, right? Is it like the problem formulation is all that you need to learn? No, because if you really want to solve a business problem, right, you have to learn a lot more. That's where, like, the way it happens in the real world. Just think about it. Like, we all want to create a data science solutions or AI solutions or deep learning solutions, and we take pride in it, right? And the discussion starts, hey, somebody walking to a manager, hey, I want to do a deep learning. I want to be part of the deep learning solution team. I want to be part of the AI team, the data science team. Right? That's where, like, people say, okay, what do I know? And then to convince the manager, they'll start talking, these are the techniques, these are the tools that I know. I have picked up, I have done advanced deep learning or machine learning courses from so-and-so institutes or certifications, right? So I know I'm ready for it. So what they say, I want to develop neural networks, multi-layered neural networks, right? Whether you are talking about recurrent neural networks, you're talking about convolutions, you're talking about long short-term memory or attention pooling, whatever, right? But that's how you try to convince and try to get the job, because you are having a solution in mind that, hey, I want to do this. That's when, like, but is that the right approach, right? Then for me, right, people start thinking, okay, what can you do? If I give you a problem, then the manager asks you, like, what can you do for me? Then I can formulate the problem because I know how to do it. Okay. That's where, like, then people say domain. I also have been working in this industry for the last 5 years, so I understand this space and so forth. So you are trying to claim that, hey, in my previous company or previous project, I have learned so much about this domain that I'm ready. And then you come to, like, and by the way, I also know something about business because I have been spending so many years in the industry, right? And what I call, like, this approach from bottom-up approach, I find it very, very flawed. It was supposed to be starting with the right on the business. And guys, like, the font size indicates, like, they know how much emphasis is on what, right? And that's where, like, you see the domain and techniques and statistics, like the tech stack in a smaller font, because the main focus or the key points or milestones are business to formulation, right? Because it always starts with business. Nobody is going to do data science project or implement a deep learning solution just because you are a deep learner. But rather, if it makes sense to my business, then only I'm going to think about it. And for that, you have to convince me, right? So it always starts with a business problem. Then it is like, hey, Apple has done it, China has done it, right? Many Chinese companies have done it. Why cannot Indian companies do it? And that's like, that domain becomes like, comes to you more as a supporting evidence that other people have already done it, right? But your problem is how to formulate. You have to translate that problem into formulation. Once you have formulated it, Then you know, okay, I have these many techniques, knowledge of these many techniques, I have these many tools. Whatever the infrastructure you have, whether it is big data or Azure or AWS, you are going to use it, right? And come up with this business solution, right? At the end, the solution also cannot be just a model. It has to be translated back to business, right? So instead of going bottom up, which is the conventional way, I would very strongly encourage each one of you to start taking the top-down approach, start thinking the business first, have that. And that is not natural, guys, like it comes with experience, but also experience is not the only thing. So don't hide behind the experience alibi. Rather, start thinking business first, that how it is going to be implemented. The end outcome, think about the solution first, what I want and how it will be implemented in business. And then you start thinking about formulation. And then everything else, domain or tech stack or methodology, comes to your rescue. Those are the enablers for me, right? Now, carry out like my point. I just wanted, like, say, like, somebody, a young mind, like, his father took a retirement. He is owner of a big company, say Mahindra, Sir Anand Mahindra, Mr. Anand Mahindra took over. He was an aggressive guy. He's like very learned and like ambitious guy. So he said, I want to double my car sales in the next 3 years. Right now, if I'm talking about this, think about it. What all comes to your mind? He's talking about the sales. So am I going to simply do a model about sales, that who is going to buy my car, purchase my car? How do I identify them? Is it the propensity model again, like, among the potential customers? I don't know, right? That could be one of the solution, but I don't know. And that's a real world scenario, like, and that's where the customer life cycle comes in, right? So very first thing, like somebody who is much more business savvy, and that's where you start data to business journey, that you have to take a step back, understand, ask questions, start asking the questions to understand the business. On the left, what you see is the typical customer journey for an automobile car manufacturer. Now, assuming it is Mahindra, right, just for the sake of discussion, there is a branding strategy, there is an advertisement or marketing strategy, there is a pre-sales effort, there is an onboarding of the customer, there is a financing, and then the actual sales. Then there is after sales services, then there is a customer feedback, right? How good or bad your car is, etc. And they keep providing the, like, and then there would be a lot of other things, like, customer touch points, like for grievances and all that, call center, etc. But that's my domain. That is also true for a company like Mercedes or Audi or right, or BMW. All these car companies witness the same life cycle. So what? And that's where, like, it is more related to the domain. But this is exactly what a customer from outside sees you as a company, because he's going to experience you through his journey, not from your perspective. He doesn't care that you have a different departments for everything. You have a manufacturing department, you have a logistics department, you have a dealers network, you have agents network, financial services, etc. Customer is not going to see it through that. Customer only cares about his own journey, right? And that's where, like, what you know once you start understanding the industry. That's the very first step. The other thing is, like, about, like, the product offering, like, and I took the Mahindra as an example, like, Mahindra is Mahindra. So it is known for its SUVs like Scorpio, Bolero, XUV 500. These are like some of the most popular brands, right? Mahindra is not Maruti. So they don't have that much popularity into the small car segment, even though they recently launched 2-3 years back, they did launch a small car, but they are not as popular. More than 80% of the products that they sell are either XUV, Scorpio, or Bolero. Bolero is, like, again, discontinued product, merged with the Scorpio, but those are the, like, the very, very well-renowned brands that they have, right? Another thing is, they don't have, as I said, they are not Maruti, they are not Mercedes or Toyota, right? So their customer segment lies within the range of, they are willing to spend somewhat 9 lakh to 20 lakhs, right? And then 80% of revenue is coming from that car segment. So that is, like, now you're talking about from domain, you're going to back to business. You're talking about the specific business that you are looking at. You're trying to understand and what price segment my customers are going to play, right? And brand positioning, I already covered. Now, you also need to understand, like, from business perspective, the very next question is, okay, then how does a typical customer looks like, right? How I want to target, what are they looking for, right? Where is my target audience? Like, what is the market share in rural India versus urban India? If you go to the rural India side, it's all Scorpio. If it's a Mahindra vehicle, it's all Scorpio, like around 90% of those vehicles will be Scorpio. No doubt about it. So there is not much juice if you start branding XUV in rural India. And when I mean rural India, it could be villages, it could be towns and all that. But in the urban part, the scene is reversed. It's more of XUV 500 and lately it is TUV and all, right? And less of Scorpios, very few Scorpios as opposed to rural India. So you have to understand the geographic factors, regional factors, right? And these things do play a vital role, right? In fact, some of the unintuitive things which I have not listed down here is like, is the road network. People in Bangalore, right? Nothing against them if there is anybody from Bangalore, but the traffic problem in Bangalore, everybody knows. It's always bumper to bumper. People don't want to drive, right? It's like sometimes it is faster to walk than driving a car. Right? It's a different city and it does have an impact on the car sales, right? Lockdown has an impact on car sales. And in the area of Delhi, yes, much better road infrastructure, the whole of NCR. So of course, car sales will be much higher. Everybody wants to have as many cars as they can afford. But if you go to Mumbai, again, middle class doesn't want to buy a car. One, they don't have a parking space in the older apartment buildings. Two, there is a very good network of local trains and the roads are very, very slow. The average speed of traffic is very, very slow. So you have to look at even those macro factors, which might have an impact on a decision that when a customer is going to make, whether or not he's going to buy a car, right? When he's going to get to drive. So all those factors, like, does play a role. So you have, even before I jumped into the solution, you have to think as many factors as you could, right? So not just what is given to you or what somebody said, hey, I have this sales data, I have this, brand values and all that, I have the production data. No, ask yourself a question. What else could be affecting the customer choices? I didn't talk about the competition yet. If Hyundai or Tata is coming up with a Harrier or something, that is something that, is going to change the market share for Mahindra for sure. When Harrier was launched, it did make a dent to Mahindra's XUV 500 sale, right? Likewise, when the Hyundai Creta was launched, it did give a dent to Mahindra, which was ruling that segment undisputedly, right? So you have to think about as many dimensions that you can think, right? Even before you start thinking on the solution side. So I'm still at the stuck. If I go to the slide, I'm still stuck at the business and domain. I'm not even at the formulation stage yet, right? And that's where you guys have to understand like how much time goes to business and formulation, because the deeper and better understanding you have, you will be much better able to formulate the problem. Now moving next, like, I hope that is clear. So now, right. So that's like business problem that we said, and we have understood the business and domain. How does it factors? Like we have all the features and everything. So what? Where do I go with that? And like, this is exactly where I see. From marketing perspective, I can make my reach, I can increase the market awareness among my customer segment, right? And I have different tools, social media, I can run marketing campaigns, I can distribute I can mail you, or I can send a pamphlet, or I can start partnering with some of the publishing media houses so that there is an advertisement on their magazines or on the television, etc. Right? So that's a like marketing thing. Then I have manufacturing. I can be much more cost efficient. I can be offering, and that's the latest thing which has started in automobile. I can start offering the customization instead of just offering a bland color. I can offer you like what kind of graphics you want. You can customize the car. Tata is like leading in that segment, by the way, right? It's not Mahindra, and that's where they need it much more, right? And Mahindra is working on that solution as we talk. Think about the supply chains, like, what is the delivery time delays from the date I booked my car, I gave my advance check, how much time you're going to take to deliver my car? Is it going to meet my expectation. First thing is like, I want my model, whatever that model is, W6 or W10 or W11, in my choice of color, right? I'm not going to accept any W11. So how do you optimize that manufacturing or supply chain, right? That is something, is it, right? Then there comes the pricing, because Harrier is getting launched, the other Kia is coming up, MG Hector is coming up, all eating up from my share of pie. They all are making a dent. Mahindra has to do something, right? Can I finance the car much more aggressively as opposed to my competition? What can I do? I have to think from it. Can I reduce my price, right? Did it have a brand impact on or negative impact on my brand? So what is my elasticity? You cannot just say that, hey, I'll start selling cheaper, but you have to think it through, like, what are you going to do? Then comes the, like, customer experience. When the customer walks into your dealer, how he is treated, that is utmost important, because that has a very long lasting impact on the customer's mind, that which company I'm going to get associated with. Similarly, the design and all, right? And I can keep on going, like, there are so many dimensions. I'm only covering few. Now, having said this, all these dimensions, they all are individual silos. You're going to solve the problem at local level, but the end goal, always keep it in mind, like, is the demand maximization, so that people want more of Mahindra. If your pricing strategy or design strategy or manufacturing strategy or marketing or experience strategy does not translate into that, it's a waste. You might score 90 on the customer experience side. Still, if it is not translating to demand maximization, increase in the demand, my objective is failed, even though your individual problem is solved of customer experience, yet it is not translating into the increase in demand. So that is what the business I always one keeps it, right? That's where there are so many things that you can do. I've talked a lot of things, like, then you come, okay, I can do operations analytics, I can do sales analytics, sales driver, analytical study, I can do a more personalization, like the customization is sort of a personalization. I can come up with the connected cars. If you have more than one Mahindra, how I can help you, right? I can be more competitive in the market. Solution design, data, technique, platform tool. This is like, again, the data scientist thing that coming into the picture, because now the problem has been formulated, right? So this is the formulation layer, and then comes the data science. And this is the last thing which I wanted to cover. People think that, hey, I have developed a deep learning model and my job is done. No, it just started. Why? One, you have even though it ran very good on your validation or test data set, whatever you call it, you have to wait and monitor it. How does it perform in the real world? As I said, if demand is not getting increased, market share of Mahindra is not getting increased, it's a waste. Your model might be running at a very high accuracy, doesn't matter, right? So you have to validate it in the market, right? And test it out in the market. More importantly, right, which nobody talks in general, to my experience, is how will you deploy it in the real world? Is it usable or not? If it is like, that your model is going to run for 10 hours because you have used 20,000 features in that, right? It's of no use. My customer has already walked out of my dealer shop. So you have to keep it in mind. It has to be agile. It has to be nimble, so that it can be run real time by the time customer is there. What kind of offer? If I have to make a real time offer, it should be there, then and there, within like 5 minutes. If there is going to be next best action, it has to be recommended to the agent on the spot. You cannot run your deep learning model, cannot take 5 hours or 10 hours to train it, or to score that and come up with a decision. It's of no use. So deployment is like very of high essence, and which we don't talk. Monitoring is likewise. Now, I'm not going to we have talked about it, there could be n number of things I can do. This is like the formulation, right? What I can do, I can create the alerts, and everywhere data science can be applied, right? It can be chatbots that you can talk with your car, right? It could be proactive route guidance, where there is a traffic jam coming in, so I can be much more proactive. I can leverage some of the Google APIs. I can develop my machine learning and AI to assist, right, to the driver. All those things can be done, right? The service center scheduling can be done much more automated and intelligence driven, and etc. Right? But you can develop all these analytical models for end goal, which is demand maximization, right? So that is where we are going to do how we solve it and the problem, right? But This is again, as I was saying, like, the deployment to monitoring and the test control kind of scenario, so that you have tested it very well. But also the feedback loop, which data scientists most of the times miss, is the of essence, right? And that is where the secret sauce is, guys, and I wanted to introduce this term from data science solutionist. I wanted to call it out. You call it business solution specialist, or you call it, right, business science specialist, is something which is the thing, right, on the top of the pyramid. All the business leaders are going to be business solution specialist or business science solutionist, whatever you want to call it. I call it DSS to BSS, right? It's just traveling from D to B in the reverse direction, right? And that is the key message that I wanted to deliver here, that, it's data science is just the first step. Your journey just started when you picked up the methodology and all. This is how you climb up the ladder, and this is how you become truly, truly precious to any organization, right? Now, just to summarize, I'll not go ahead, when we start, always start big, the BSS, the business science solutionist or business solution specialist, talks about from data science to business solution, start big, as we did. Mahindra wants to increase its market share or increase the sales. Spend as much time as you can on understanding the business and the domain, right? Then comes the formulate business problem. Understand the domain as well, so that you know the competitive landscape, etc. And then you have to come up with the specific analytical problem statement, which you are going to give to data science solutionist, right? So each problem statement or set of problem statements can be given to different data science solutionist, right? And that's where you start and that's what the color coding is. The analytical problem statement is the job, right? Data science solutionist, and he can design that solution approach. He can hypothetical test for solution outcome, because he has the ability to look at how my final solution will look like forehand without running the model. He can think about, okay, I have the model, then what? He can ask that question, he can test it, simulate it, and it gets built, right? And then the third phase, which is deploy, monitor, relearn. And relearn, for that you have to have a feedback loop in everything you do, and you can reinforce your learning. You can learn from your mistakes the model did, right? And with that is the framework, I'll say, and the last thing I wanted to leave you guys with a thought, why I call it think-ovation, because when I was reading the news recently, look at these are the Indian jugars. I call them think-ovations, right? I don't call it jugars, right? There is a e-rickshaw driver who was actually invited by Sir Anand Mahindra himself, because he understood the business problem during the COVID crisis. He has to go out on the road, but passengers were not coming in. So he modified his rickshaw design so that the social distancing norms are followed. He has a sanitizer in his rickshaw as well. So you can sanitize, you have a wipe, you can wipe it, the seats and all. How innovative, right? And we say that, hey, AI is going to do everything. No, I think the common sense is going to do a lot more than the AI. And people who don't have common sense, I don't know if their jobs get eaten by AI, right? But people who have common sense, they are going to thrive much more, right? The second example is also very, very interesting one. This is the milk delivery guy. He cannot sit at home. He's not he's come from a very modest economic background. Look at the solution he came up, right? To maintain a social distance, yet doing his job and earning bread for his family. And that is guys, they are thinking, they're spending a lot more time. Okay, what is that COVID is asking me? To maintain a social distance. It's as long as I'm not getting the human contact, I am safe, right? And these guys translated that innovatively into a real applicable solution. They did not do any data science for it, right? And for me, that gives me a thrill, and goosebumps. Why we are not able to? We always are talking about AI, deep learning, etc., right? So, and that's why I wanted close out, and my closing caption was, outcome of think-ovation, because that is simply, think plus innovation, right? So think, apply common sense, understand, think as much as you can before you can even innovate. You cannot innovate without understanding and thinking, right? You should know what you're trying to solve and what are the constraints. These guys formulated that social distance is going to be the key. For them, it was formulation must have been, I need to maintain a social distance with my customers. I need to assure that social distancing is maintained. They did it. And there are like so many solutions. Like I've seen the convenience store and all that, but I just definitely wanted to highlight, right? And then guys, if you guys are able to think of it, trust me that think-ovation outcome is limitless. Like, you have no idea what you can do even in such troubled time. So think about in a stable or normal peace time, what you can do. So with that, like, I'll close out, like, remember the framework, right? Data scientist is the first, where is that, right? Data scientist is the first ladder or first milestone. You have to become part of this community. That's an eligibility test, I can say, but that's where your journey starts. Become solution focused data scientist, and then starts gravitating towards business solutions and not necessarily data science, just focusing on business solutions and formulation and understanding, become an expert of that. And then there is nothing that can stop you, right? And always, last slide is only focus on, don't forget the common sense in the world of AI. Like people have started doing that. So my humble request and humble urge is, remember, common sense still prevails. And that with that, I'll hand it over back to Radhika. I'm pretty much done with my presentation. Yeah. Right. And feel free, guys, anybody wants to email, just feel free. Yeah. Over to you, Dr. Radhika.
Can we take some of the question? There are
yes.
A lot of question in a chat box. Yes. So Radhika, one by one, we can take some question.
Yes, sir, sure. So related to some examples that you finished with, sir. So there was a question that how is data science helping COVID-19 situation? That was one of the questions.
Got it. Yeah. And I can answer in a number of ways. When the last slide was how the COVID-19 situation people evolved, right? Yes. And e-rickshaw driver, but I can talk more from healthcare because I come from healthcare, right? In America, where we already have more than 10 lakh people contaminated with COVID. So they are in a huge scarcity of hospital capacity, to be honest. They have run out of their beds, right? So what we are trying to do is, how do I identify a patient who can be treated at home itself? It doesn't require necessarily to be in the hospital, right? So we are treating them. We are coming up with the intelligence, even when you are going to a hospital, we are scoring them in the real time, how you can be at home, or do you really need to be at hospital? The other thing that we are doing is, how do I increase the penetration of telehealth, right? So that you don't have to come to my hospital, don't block my capacity or bandwidth, right? So we are deploying multiple solutions like the chatbots, right? That is a new phenomena where we have a health assistant, instead of a compounder, there is a digital compounder who can solve your first level queries, right? And it's dynamic, it's based on deep learning. So it can take many more clinical queries you have. If it's a simple case, it will give you the solution also, right? And doctor is only going to spend a minute to validate, right? So we are doing a lot more things in the healthcare space, from hospitals perspective, freeing up the capacity, freeing up the patients. We are also looking at which area is going to be next hub. So we have that ability to forecast 2 weeks down the line where exactly it is going to break out. We are taking sky is the limit, as I keep saying, right? Some of the solutions may not be possible in the limited time, but can I have the people's movement data that you have in US? You have all the smart cameras installed. Even in India, I live in Delhi, so Delhi has so many cameras installed. You can track how people are moving from one area to another area. So you can track what is the area. If you are passing by an area which is hotspot, how that is going to affect my movement and the contraction rate to the COVID to the other area which I'm going to. So there is so many solutions going on, right? Even on the restaurants and other industries are also doing the same, by the way.
Okay.
There is one interesting question here. How data science is different than business intelligence? So something on that.
Okay. Yeah. So business intelligence, to me, everything is business intelligence, to be honest. But in the industry terms, when we talk about business intelligence, we are talking about what is happening. If you're only trying to answer what is happening, right? You must have seen, many of you have seen the COVID dashboards, like whether it is Worldometer dashboard or it is covidindia.org dashboard, that, every day media houses are reporting out so many cases, 81,000, 83,000 cases in India, so many have recovered, so many of this. This is business intelligence, right? Because you know what is happening, right? But when we go data science world, you go one step ahead from what is happening, which is like describing and understanding what is happening and absorbing it. But when you get into the more actionable mode, so what? What should a government do? The moment you ask that question, you have become a data scientist. That very moment. Should government lift the lockdown 3.0 and all the lockdowns, or should there be a much stricter version of lockdown during the lockdown 4.0? What government should do, given that now there are 83 or 85,000 patients in India, right? That very moment you move into the actionability, right? So business intelligence is more around understanding what is happening. And the moment you start moving towards, okay, so what? Ask that question and you become a data science. You have stepped into the very first stepping stone of data science world.
Thank you, sir.
Radhika, can we take some other question?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure. There are two questions related to each other. So let me ask them together. So some students are asking that which are the latest tools they can learn for a good future in data science, as well as which methods and which processes should they learn, or how to decide which tool they should learn right now.
Right. So tool-wise, like, I'll say like there are so many things, like, guys. Earlier it was big data, and now what is very swiftly moving towards the cloud services.
Yes.
Right. So Azure and AWS are leading the curve, by the way, so far. Right. And Google Cloud is trying to catch up with them. So the coming time is going to be in the cloud space, no matter what. Right. Having said that, if you ask me, like, the business of today, Python is a must, right? Because most of whether you are running it on S2O or Spark, everything has a basis as Python scripts. So I'll say like Python is a good tool for today. But if you ask me, after 3 years, what is going to happen? Everything will be start learning AWS sooner than later. Start taking courses on Azure or Google Cloud maybe. And they all have their own data science suites, right? Which is have their own syntax. So 3 to 4 years down the line, it will be all migrated towards cloud, right? And Python, because you are installing it on the local machine, that will be gone. It's highly inefficient to running it on a local machine, right? Even on the servers are too costly for us, for all the businesses. So everything is going to gravitate towards the cloud within 3 to 5 years. It has already started. So if you want to be much more futuristic, then go for the cloud learnings, AWS, Azure, directly learn the data science suite in Azure. Don't worry about R or Python too much. But if today you may not find that, that handy. And all the companies don't have that access to Azure or AWS because they are also costly a little bit and requires a little bit of infrastructure changes.
But people are saying that Julia is coming and Julia will replace Python.
I'm sorry, which one?
Julia.
Yes, so it's very primitive, right now at this moment, to say what is going to replace what, right? Because there has been so many buzz in the market and so many tools and languages which failed. Some many made it to the curve, like Python or Anaconda. I got introduced in 2006 when I started my career, right? But now is the time, I started reading the books and then I dumped it. Hey, it's not going to come ever, right? I kept on waiting for until 2008 or 9, and I was like, it's not happening. It's all SaaS. But suddenly in 2011, 12, suddenly that curve started shifting towards them, and today it is all Python. And believe me, you cannot predict. Like many other languages, like SPSS is gone. It used to be mathematical, right? It used to be tools, which
Sir, there was some request, like if you can share your PPT, because people are using mobile phone and it was very difficult to read each and every content. So if you can share your PPT and let us.
I can do that. I can do that.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Radhika Desai, some other questions till we have a time? 2, 3.
Yes, sir. There was a question that what is the role of a statistician in data science or in creating a business solution?
This question is very, very close to my heart because I myself am a statistician, right? I started my career as a statistician. To me, what has happened eventually in last few years, the world of statistics and the world of computer science got married with each other, right? And that's where like there is like a lot of tug of war going on between computer science guys and the statistician. You know, who's a data scientist, right? So and that's why I said like this question is very, very close to my heart. I can share my perspective. There is no fixed answer to this. When I started, I was studying statistics, all the clustering, unsupervised methods, you know, the supervised methods, they were part of my modeling course. We used to call it predictive modeling, right? And unsupervised learning was part of data mining. The similarity matrices were part of data mining, right? And when the computer science guys came in, the marriage occurred. They changed the nomenclature because it was like, you know, dominated by, if you say data mining, it was dominated by statisticians. So they changed that, they coined a new term, data science, right? It took us a time and they deliberately put it to Java. They moved away from SAS or R and they said it's Java now, right? You have to learn Java for that. And that was like, you know, that became the hurdle and a bridge was needed. Like, you know, for statisticians, they were not trained on JavaScript, Java or the programming languages .NET. We were not trained on that, right? So, but on the same time, computer science engineers, though they knew the programming, they didn't know the concepts. They were like, you know, applying blindly. Hey, I have developed this algorithm which is much more superior to logistic regression, right? Logistic regression, many of you like debate, like, you know, that whether it is a stats model or whether it is machine learning, because to me, it's like because it is optimizing and it is based on the loss function and the likelihood function. So it is like, you know, machine learning technically, but computer science says, oh, no, stats guys were doing it. So it's like, you know, it's a statistical model. We are doing XGBoost or like the gradient boosting. It's computer science, right? So that is how it is. But now, like, you know, after a few years, when we both realized like we are married, we can't be separated now, right? So the computer scientists as well as the statisticians, right? We have became, I'll not say like, you know, who is husband and who is wife, I'll not get into that. But, you know, we are married now and we are intertwined. So the way it is happening is like, you know, they are the best like in developing the algorithms. Like, you know, if you are more on the programming side, then you have the edge on the developing of the algorithm because you can optimize, you can write those functions much better than us. On the same time, when it comes to applications, right? As I said, if you have the conceptual understanding, what will it take? When you should be deploying unsupervised versus supervised, when you should be marrying the two, right? Is something which takes and which stats world, like, you know, gives you the power with it. That's where like you have the edge. And one last thing I'll add to that, people have like all the modern days data scientists have stopped doing the basics. I'll say like, you know, they have stopped doing the basics as in like, you know, spending time with features and all. And I have come across real world example I can give you. People developed a model, very complex deep learning model with 10,000 features. And every time I was calling, hey, can you make this change? They were taking like, you know, 2 days to come back, even if it's like a very minor change. And I asked, what is going on? And then I got fed up one day. And in the team, I asked, like, you know, in my previous company, what is going on? And then they said, hey, we have 10,000 features to train it on. I said, why you have 10,000? Right. And then when we started dismantling that, the final solution, which they were like working on for last 1 year and was not getting finalized, we, after post dismantling, and we again started spinning the wheel, the final model had only 400 features. Because we spent time on the learning the stats, right? We started creating the features in a very much more statistical fashion, and then the computer science. So for me, they are not competing against each other. They are complementing each other, right? So remember the two, like, you know, both have their own pros and cons. You have to be master of both in order to thrive in your career.
Thank you, sir. Sir, should I proceed ahead for the session now?
Yes, you can proceed ahead. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. So finally, inviting Mr. Ashish Trivedi, sir, HOD of Computer Science Department, Thakur College of Science and Commerce, to extend the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Radhika Madam. Good afternoon, one and all. It's my privilege to express the vote of thanks to our eminent speaker of the day, Abhay Shukla, sir, and he has given an insight into the data science and the artificial intelligence, deep learning, especially emphasizing on the problem formulation and the data science solutionist. obviously with the demand maximization. So when one wants to make a career, he has to keep these things in mind. It's a very useful idea what the sir has shared. I also like to express my thank to Dr. Hiren Dan sir for sharing his time, valuable time in this conclave. And I express my gratitude to our management and the principal madam, Dr. Chakravarti madam, for being the continuous source of inspiration and motivation in this conclave. And lastly, I express my gratitude towards all the participants and the technical and the non-technical team for being part of this particular conclave. Thank you all. Thanks.
We are also thankful to Anand Upadhyay, who somehow contacted you, and then it was made possible. Because of unfortunate internet connection, he could not join. So very much thankful to Anand. And really, it was a wonderful session because you are not reading the chat box. So there is a lot of appreciation about this session. And thank you so much for giving insight of detailed area of a data science. And whatever the example you have given, that is really wonderful. And my request to all the participants, those who are facing a problem of getting a feedback link or getting an e-certificate, they can just write down in their WhatsApp, and we'll be sending you a link in your mobile, in your email ID. So thank you so much. Thank you so much all joining here, Hiren sir, for giving us time. You are representing University of Mumbai, and you are very close to us. So thank you so much for giving our time. And just we will